There's an old saying that you can't go home again, unless of course that home is WWE, in which case you definitely can go home again, and if you could make it between January and April, that would be great. The pop that accompanies a surprise return is one of the sweetest sounds in all of wrestling, and while WWE may have some of the most iconic moments in their books, they're definitely not the only promotion to pull off that unique roof-shaking thunder as a crowd says, "Hello wrestler, missed you XOXO." There are bloody loads of great pops out there, but to trim this list down just a little, this is purely a list of surprise returns. Triple H returning at MSG 2002 was godlike noise, but it was still announced ahead of time. This is my list, these are my rules, and that being said, here are the 15 most thunderous surprise wrestling returns. And don't forget to hit that like button and make sure you remember to subscribe to WrestleTalk so you never miss one of these lists. It really helps out the channel, and we'll send you money if you do. We won't, but we might. We won't. Number 15, Dean Malenko, Slamboree 98. If you've only seen him work in WWE, then it might surprise you to learn that Dean Malenko, fourth most successful Radical and finalist alongside Lance Storm in the world's least animated man competition, produced one of the most monster pops in WCW history. Dean had been absent from TV for months, mourning the loss of his father. In his absence, Cruiserweight champ Chris Jericho worked a feud between him and Dean all by himself, constantly belittling Malenko. This feud is where the 1004 holds of Jericho comes from. At Slamboree 98, a battle royal was held to determine a challenger to Jericho's Cruiserweight title, which came down to Ciclope and Juventud Guerrera. Suddenly, Juvi shakes his opponent's hand and eliminates himself. What, says everyone, until the remaining luchador removes his mask to reveal Dean Malenko underneath. Brilliant long-term booking with an amazing payoff doesn't feel like a correct sentence to say about WCW in 1998, but damn it, this was a stadium shaker. And speaking of Y2J, number 14, Chris Jericho, All In. If Christopher Jericho understands one thing, it's how to make an entrance. He's had a number of amazing returns in his career, attacking Evil at King of Pro Wrestling, managed to return completely unspoiled at the 2013 Rumble, no mean feat considering today's spoiler-happy wrestling scene, but his best has to be his return to what was then the indie circuit at All In, AEW's one-off indie super show before it was officially AEW. After a match between cherished nerd Kenny Omega and haunted skeleton Penta El Zero, the lights went out. When they came back up, the prone body of Penta suddenly nipped up and battered Omega, before hitting him with a code breaker as the crowd went conkers badonkers. Jericho removed his Penta mask as one of the smarkiest crowds that ever smarked, went mental at having been hoodwinked by the master one more time. Number 13, The Ultimate Warrior, WrestleMania 8. WrestleMania 8 may go down in history as one of the strangest, WrestleManias ever, due to it blowing what would turn out to be WWE's only shot at running Hogan vs. Flair, instead ending with Hogan vs. Sid, which ended in a botched run-in from Papa Shango and a piss-lame DQ finish to the biggest show of the year. But it can't be denied that the crowd came all caps unglued when the Ultimate Warrior's music hit and he returned 8 months after being fired for threatening to no-show SummerSlam unless Vince paid him through the nose. He did his signature run to the ring to help Hogan dispatch Sid and Shango to a thunderous ovation. Of course, WWE was in the midst of the steroid scandal at the time, and Warrior was Admiral steroids, so the return didn't really come to much, but you can't deny the volume in the Hoosier Dome that night. Number 12, Shane McMahon, Raw 2016. It's a bit of a recurring theme on this list for a WWE return to be an absolute banger, followed by months of middling results on telly, and the patron saint of yay he's back, oh no he's staying is Shane McMahon. By the time 2018 rolled around, fans were begging for peeled shrimp and a baseball jersey Shane O'Mac to go Shane-O back where he came from, so much so that it seems genuinely unreal to watch the February 22nd, 2016 episode of Raw. During what seemed like yet another interminable Stephanie and Vince promo, Shane returned after not being seen on TV for 7 years. It was a monster pop, possibly the biggest crowd reaction garnered by a McMahon since Linda at Mania X7. Not bad for a sentient bit of boiled ham, but then everything got confusing with The Undertaker, and isn't that a shame? Number 11, Seth Rollins, Extreme Rules 2016. Rounding off our Isn't That a Shame trilogy, the return of Seth Rollins at the end of Extreme Rules after having been on the shelf with a ruptured knee for 6 months after a brilliant match between Roman Reigns and AJ Styles. As the big dog held up the belt in big victory, the Architect returned to drop him with a pedigree, while WWE would deflate Rollins' return almost immediately by keeping him allied to the Authority for a few more months when the crowd desperately wanted him to be a babyface against still not over as a face Roman Reigns. His actual return was a simple, pure but a booking, resulting in a simple and uncomplicated explosion of happiness from a crowd who'd missed Seth dearly. Number 10, The Sandman, ECW 1999. One of the brightest stars of ECW's heyday, The Sandman might have looked like what happened if Trevor Phillips from GTA 5 dyed his hair and went a bit more mentally unhinged, but he was a swaggering embodiment of everything that made ECW counter mainstream. Also, he entered to Metallica, and wrestling fans really like Metallica. In 98, Sandman left ECW after being signed to a 3-year deal by WCW. After a relatively underwhelming run as Hack over where the big boys play, Sandman was released after only a year. 1 month later, on the October 30th episode of Hardcore TV, during the Impact Players vs. Raven and Tommy Dreamer, the lights went out. When they came back, there was the Sandman. Back home, cigarette in mouth, cane in hand. Quite possibly the loudest, most sustained ECW pop of all time, and the happiest anyone's been to see a man with a cane since Charlie Chaplin died. Number 9, Hulk Hogan, WrestleMania 21. Despite the efforts of Hulk Hogan, a wrestling crowd will always be happy to see Hulk Hogan, and at WrestleMania 21, oh boy were they happy to see him. During a segment that saw Muhammad Hassan brutalizing Eugene, because of course, if the whole point of your character is to hold up an uncomfortable mirror to American Islamophobia, the best way to make that point is to beat up someone with learning difficulties. Good job, everyone. Islamic stereotype plus disability stereotype plus Hulk Hogan is one hell of a problematic jambalaya, but damn it, it worked, with the city of LA absolutely shaking when Real American hit, and this time it wasn't down to the San Andreas fault. Number 8, The Undertaker, Judgment Day 2000. Man, I almost didn't include this one because somehow WWE managed to f*** this up while it was happening. We've mentioned it before in another list, so to be brief, Mr. Michael Motorbicycle returned after 8 months during the closing moments of the 60-minute Iron Man match between Triple H and The Rock. Everyone was very happy about this and made a lot of very happy noises about this. Then, during the process of cleaning house, Undertaker got The Rock DQ'd, giving the heel win to Trips, and everyone went, "Sorry, what?" And Malevolent Malcolm just stood there with a big whoops face. Dumb that. Dumb that. Just have Taker help Rock retain. What is wrong with you? Point is, even arse backward booking couldn't take away the fact that this is one of the loudest moments of the Attitude Era. Number 7, Brock Lesnar, Raw 2012. On the list of worst things said by a commentator, Michael Cole's "Oh my" is up there with Michael Cole's "Miracle Kid" and "For the Love of Mankind," as said by Michael Cole. Cringeworthy scripting to one side, the return to WWE of the palest volcano to have ever lived was a monster of a moment. Fans knew that Brock was likely to return, but they didn't know when, and emptied their lungs and butts when he showed up the night after Mania 28. They cheered even louder when Bork beat up Green Man, followed by the most vicious heel move of all time when Brock kicks Cena's hat. Welcome back, you nightmare son of a bitch. Sorry you had to immediately lose clean your first pay-per-view match back, lol 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 lol. Number 6, John Cena, Royal Rumble 2008. John Cena is not a human man. He doesn't understand your human love, and his body doesn't work like your human meat. When he tore his pectoral muscle off the bone in October 2007, it was standard for human biology to require 6 months to a year of rehabilitation. 4 months later, John Cena rocks up in the number 30 spot at the Royal Rumble because he's not human. He was created in a lab by Captain America scientists to build a perfect physical specimen to voice Ferdinand the Bull, and he does things that non-bull men can't. The miraculous recovery even had MSG fans, the most counterculture of all WWE's fans, cheering their hearts out. Number 5, The Rock, Raw 2011. When WWE puts their mind to it, they can still produce some of the best shock TV ever. Absolutely everything in the build-up to The Rock's reveal as the host of Mania 27 was perfect on Raw in February 2011. Cena's misdirections at the start of the show were clever. Then, just before the announcement, a car pulled up with a pair of high-heeled feet stepping out. In the arena, the lights slowly faded to black, followed by fizzles of electricity, and then finally, The Rock's music hits. It's flawless production, teasing out the audience just long enough before releasing them, resulting in one of Raw's greatest and loudest moments. Just a shame about Mania 27, eh? Number 4, Sting, Uncensored 1997. Dean Malenko's pop was very loud, but Sting's has it beaten like it's an NWO lackey running into the ring to face a man in a black duster wielding a baseball bat. After the New World Order took over WCW, Sting decided to walk away rather than watch his home be torn apart. For months, Sting was absent from the ring, appearing only in the rafters or at ringside, never wrestling, never attacking, just waiting for ages. That all changed at Uncensored. After yet another main event victory by the NWO, Sting made his first ever descent from the ceiling to the ring before laying waste to the New World Order with his trusty bat. All that teasing, all the doubts as to whose side Sting would be on after everyone had given up and joined the NWO. Sting's shock return was one of the happiest memories of WCW's greatest run. Number 3, The Hardy Boys, WrestleMania 33. I was there. The only entry on this list where I can say I was there. The crowd may not seem as loud as other entries on this list because there's no roof on the Camping World Stadium, but you're gonna have to trust me when I say it was unlike anything that WWE had seen for decades. It was perfect timing. Matt and Jeff Hardy had just finished up industry warping runs in Impact and Ring of Honor, including a ladder match against the Young Bucks less than 24 hours earlier. Rumors had been heard, but nothing concrete, and then, just before the triple threat ladder match for the Raw Tag Belts, the New Day announced one more team was joining them, and then, when that music hit, not even a Michael Cole "Oh My" could hurt it. Thousands upon thousands of fans losing their minds, and me, my little voice, somewhere in there, screaming as loud as anyone. Number 2, Edge, Royal Rumble 2020. That happened this year. This year. It's been less than 12 months, but Christ on a pedalo, doesn't it seem like it happened 6 lifetimes ago? There have been a few miracle returns to wrestling in the past few years. Daniel Bryan came back to in-ring action, CM Punk briefly turned up on a WWE show, and the artist formerly known as Cameron turned up in AEW. However, while D-Bryce was possibly the most heartwarming, the most shocking moment belongs to Edge, turning up at number 21 in the Rumble to a universe-rattling reception. WWE chopped the hell out of the moment with their typical schizophrenic editing, but as Edge emerged from that cloud of smoke, the emotions were still real to us. 9 years after being forcibly retired from the ring, it was wonderful to have him back. Let's just hope it isn't another 9 years before we see him again in front of a live crowd. And number 1, Steve Austin, Backlash 2000. Okay, this is a bit of a cheat because Austin was announced to appear at Backlash 2000, being in The Rock's corner for his match against Triple H that should have been the main event of WrestleMania 2000. However, WWE did a wonderful bit of crowd work that night, delaying Austin's arrival over and over before finally announcing he wasn't going to be there after all. It's a hokey gimmick, but it worked gangbusters as the match became more and more one-sided and unfair, with the crowd becoming less and less happy, even loudly chanting boring. When it looked like the end for The Rock, when Triple H was hauling the outnumbered People's Champion up for one last pedigree, the glass shattered, and it's one of the best pops in wrestling history. After being run over by a car 5 months earlier, Austin finally walked down that aisle one more time, braining everyone with a steel chair, raising hell, and leaving. Sheer perfection. And that's our list. What's your favourite wrestling return? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and share this video around, and make sure you subscribe to WrestleTalk for more news and lists, and never forget to jam that jam.